Alright guys, we since we've got the VFD up and going, we might finish off the transmission gear. Before we do go into the slides, this is the actual worm shaft. I've had to go back and do a modification to this. When I originally drew this, I drew it from the spec that I got from the eBay seller before I actually got the thing, and drew it up. But when I've actually gone to measure it now, the face width isn't 50, it's 42. So I've had to adjust everything sort of around that a little bit, which is fine. It's not going to affect the operation at all as long as we know about it. I've also lengthened it by about 2mm, which means I can use the stock length on this side without having to do any major machining. I've got this set up in the lathe at the moment between centres just to see what the centres are like that are in here from the manufacturer. The important concentric face that I want to work to is actually the worm. Everything else can follow on from that. So I've got this set up between centres at the moment. Right, so I've got this set up between centres. I've actually just machined this centre to the 60° inclusive angle, so it's dead plumb with the centre line of the lathe. I've got my little lever indicator sitting on the worm, and I'm about 0.1 of a mil out of concentricity with that worm. So I'm not real confident about their centres. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back to setting this back up in the chuck. I was a lot closer when I had this set up in the chuck. I was within about 0.03, I reckon. So we'll go back to the chuck to hold it, and we'll start machining up this long edge here. So obviously their centres aren't quite where they should be, but that's okay. Alright, so I've set it back up in the chuck. You can actually see this a little bit better. So if I run it round, well, it's less than half a thou. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's where we'll do our machining up at this end, so I'll get started on that. Right, so I'm happy with that concentricity. That's, pretty spot on. Righto, we'll rough this out. We'll leave it a ½ mil or so oversize on all the diameters. Hope you can see that. So this is our bearing diameter just here. I'm going to make that a nominal 20mm, just so that bearing cone is just a very, very light push fit onto that. Other ones aren't so critical, we can match them up, but that's for our drive pulley. And this is a little extension I'm going to put off here in case I want to put some sort of handle or notch wheel or something like that on it, just to rotate it by hand. This diameter up here is just a normal 23mm clearance, nothing critical. This is where we're going to put a little punch out washer onto here, so normal 21 on that. But this will be our critical dimension here. So anyway, we'll start roughing out each of the step sets until we come on down to get ready for finishing. Right, I'll continue roughing that down, and I'll bring you back when we're getting ready for our finishing. It's machining like a 1030, 1040, 1045 steel, this, so certainly not a 1020 or low carbon steel. It's got a little bit of carbon in it, just the way it feels anyway. Alright, we'll continue on with that, and as I said, we'll bring you back when we're getting down to our finishing. Right, we'll set up for the finishing passes now. I've dropped my feed rate back. I actually found a feed rate, a good fast speed rate, where it doesn't sound like the feed gearbox is going to destroy itself, so I've got a good combination I've just written down. I'll keep that. Rightio, so we're at 20.48, and our target size 20.48. Yep, our target size is 20 millimeters. So we've got 240 come off the radius. Right, got 1, 2 left to go. I'm going to lineage that down to the final bits. So take off window 4. Right, we've got 0.025 left to go. Go on to the next diameter. Just a little punch out washer. Let's go 0.1 on that one. This diameter here is not so critical. I can size that to suit. Yeah, 0.02 left to go. 0.02 left to go on that. And we'll come down to this diameter here, which is for our timing pulley. Its normal size is 14mm, which is going to match the broaching sets that I've got. At the moment we're 14.47. 14.47. 235. to go. That's a beautiful finish, not going to touch that anymore. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll finish off this little tiny diameter here down to 12 millimeters. Then I'll linish up everything. I'm going to tidy that up to that's as rough as bags. Linish everything up and I'll come back when we're going to cut the circlip groove. So yeah, it's coming up alright. Right, I'm going to cut the circlip groove in. It's 15.5mm up. Bought these little inserts that fit into the threading insert holder, and they're designed for little circlips. I've got a couple for external and a couple for the internal, which is just left hand, right hand. So they measure 1mm across the land, and but open this up to 1.4 to 1.3. Now I've measured the circlip and it's coming up at 1.15, so I want to make that a fairly tight fit. I'm actually going to make that 1.2. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit and we'll go to the maximum. Yeah, we'll go to the 1.3 depth anyway to get that little circlip into place, and then we've got a spacer washer between that and the bearing face. So let's see how we go. I'll just, excuse my arm, I'll just make my speed down a little bit. Right, we'll try that on. Yep. Oh, jeez. What have I done there? Oh gosh. I'm reading the wrong. Should have gone 0.5. Alright, well, I'm not going to worry about that too much because it's not doing anything critical for us. It's just got a backup washer against it. So it's just a little bit of play in that. Yep, I think I'll leave it. Oh, bad mistake. Alright. Righto, so to fix up my little blunder, I've made up a spring steel little clip that's going to go in that groove, and that will bring it back exactly to the specification that we need for the depth. So I just fabricated that up out of a spring, so it's about 0.85 of a millimetre in diameter, which will bring it back quite nicely. So I'm going to fit that into place and we'll see how it looks. I don't know if you can see that, but that sits into the groove quite well. So we'll see how that goes. Geez, if I had done this in one of the commercial shops I used to work in, yeah, you'd be frog marched out the door. Oh dear me, still suffering from the flu, still a bit fuzzy in the head, but anyway, yeah, we've made a mistake. It's about how we go about fixing it. So I'll try the circlip on there now, and we'll see how that looks. Circlip on, and I'll tell you what, it takes a bit to turn it around. So what do you call getting out of jail? So that's a tight fit in that groove now. There's no slop on that whatsoever. So I'll leave that spring clip in there. It'll become part of the show. Alright, well, we'll turn this around and we'll machine up this end here. Fortunately no circlips to machine in there. Well, I do have a thread to cut, the way I'm going. Yeah, I cut the wrong pitch. Alright. Alright, we'll get this turned around and we'll get this set up for the other machining operation. And we'll go to the mill and we'll cut the keyway into this for the timing belt pulley. And then up this end here we've got a keyway to cut for the retaining lock nut washer. So, alright, I'll go and bury my head in shame. Alright, I'll see you soon. Righto, so I finished this bearing diameter off the sides. It's just basically a line thickness below, so this one has to be able to slide when we're punching this out, so it has to be able to remove that the cone out of the way fairly easily. So I've just cut my run-off groove, and I'm going to set up now, and we'll do that 1 mil pitch thread onto there, and then I think we're into the milling machine then. So we'll start doing the keyways after this. All right, so I'll get set up for this this thread cutting. We'll see how we go. Right, so we've got our thread set for 1 mil pitch. I'll just give that a go. I'll just do a scratch pass first. I'll disengage. Make sure we're cutting a 1 mil pitch. I have to move it with the circlip groove. I'm sure you're all sitting there watching, what the heck is he doing? Right, that's 1 mil. So 0.62 for a 1 mil pitch. 0.62, we'll see how close that is to the mark. As I said, I like to just side cut if I need to. I don't come in at the 30 degree. And there we go again. Right, as I said, I usually do a heavy cut for the first few. Being a 1 mil pitch, I can drop in anywhere on that. It's 1/2 mil deep. .6 deep. Right. Trying to see if we can get a fit on that, or how close we are. that is very much spot on the money. I might just take a spring pass on that. It was 0.615 and the spec is just over 0.62. Oh, geez, I don't know. I might persevere and just alright, that's it. No, we'll leave it at that. Alright, I'm happy with that. Alright, so we finished the machining on this, albeit we made a little blue. That circlip hole, but other than that, that looks beautiful. I'll clean that thread up with a bit of emery, just give it a bit of a buff. Everything else is on size, so alright. I'll get that tidied up and we'll come back onto the mill to cut those keyways. Alright guys, we've got a couple of keys or keyways that we need to cut into this worm shaft. One is for the timing belt pulley up this end here, and up the other end, we can't see it yet, but up the other end there where I have the thread for the lock nut, we need to cut a 4mm wide keyway for the lock nut washer. But we'll do this one first. I'm going to use a 5mm end mill as it is, so I'm not going to side cut. I'm just going to have a bit of a look and see how that width comes up when we do cut it in, and I'll check that with some gauge box and just see how close it is, because I can hand fit the key to these without any issues. But we'll get into it, and I've got everything zeroed out and squared up and centered, so we're right there. We need to go 2.88 on the depth, so there we go. Right, I might try and grab a gauge block and we'll just see how that looks. I'll take the burrs off that first. Right, I've got a stack of gauge blocks. That's 5.04 and that's just going in there. So it's 0.04 up on size. What's that, just shy of 2 thou. So it has cut slightly oversized, as I said. It's not a real issue. I can hand fit those keys to that. But interesting exercise just to see how that actually cut. One thing I do like about them, as I said, with slot drills, you'll get those little chips being dragged around and creating little divots right down the edges. But that's as clean as a whistle there. So, all right, I'll set up with a 4mm and. We'll cut the key on the other end for the lock washer on that thread. Okay, so this is a 4mm keyway that we need to cut in this, 1.5mm deep, to match this little bloke here. So it's a little lock washer for that M20 lock nut. And you might have seen just how he lost power just very, very briefly there. Now that was the fault that I've had coming in with those last two VFDs that have failed. So I wouldn't be surprised if the VFD here on the in the milling machine is on its way out now. So would not surprise me at all. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it over the next few weeks, but that was the exact symptom that everything started off with. Alright, that's going to be fine. One thing I don't like about these particular lock washers, they just don't have a tab. It's actually rotated in at 90 degrees, so I have to take a little bit off that. It's not going to bottom out, but yeah, that's good. Right, so that's all the machining operations on our worm wheel now complete. So we'll move on to the next operation. I might start fitting the bearing cups up into the housing, and we'll start doing a little bit of a pre-assemble on this and see how that's fitting in relation to the worm wheel. At this end here, I'm just going to make up a dummy bush for it to sit in, just so I don't want to be worrying about trying to punch the cup out every time I need to get this out. So this end here, we'll just put a dummy. I'll just machine up a dummy bush for it, so that we can easily remove that in and out. And on the final assembly, when everything's set and done, we'll fit the bearings up to it and do its final assembly. But just for the time being, I'll just use a little bush. All right, well, I'll break this setup down. We'll remove the burrs off this, and we'll start on with some bearing assemblies.